The community is slowly starting to grind away at Battlefield 6 and figure out all of the new meta weapons and classes to choose, but realistically, most players, not all, but definitely most, are still below about level 25 or so. And so today, I wanted to run you guys through 7 of the best early weapons in the game to help you get through those early levels and enjoy the game even more. Now, the first one we've got here is an absolute classic. This is the M4A1. And one question I've got to any of you who are weapon experts, I want to know why this one has actually got its real name, while most other weapons in the game, not only Battlefield, but most other shooters out there, they no longer really have their actual names anymore. I know it's to do with licensing, but I've always found it weird how some weapons, with the M4 being an example of that, actually get to keep their proper name. So for those of you who know the answer to that, be sure to leave a comment down below. Now, getting into the weapon itself, the M4 doesn't need too much of an explanation. This is an absolute classic, like I said. It has a really high rate of fire while also having a really solid damage output. However, the downside that comes with that is it does have a little bit of kick to it, but obviously if you can manage your recoil, this thing is an absolute beast. Now, for a bit of context, the M4A1 fires almost as fast as the MP7, which is one of the fastest firing weapons in the game, but it deals almost 50% extra damage, which is absolutely nuts. Obviously, again, it does have a little bit more recoil, but that is a pretty insane stat to know. Now, the good thing about the M4 is that it is unlocked by default. It's unlocked at level 1, so everyone already has this one. So be sure to use it. It is an absolute beast, like I said, even though I'm sure most of you have probably already figured that out. Now, moving on, we've got another absolute classic. This is the MP5, or as it's called in this game, the PW5A3. And this one is unlocked at level 6, so again, very early on in the game, pretty much within your first handful of games, you'll have this one unlocked. Now, the thing with the MP5 is that it has a slightly slower rate of fire than most SMGs, but with that comes some very, very good accuracy, meaning that it is pretty viable at sort of mid-range as well, as long as you are tapping the trigger, especially when you compare it to most other SMGs where they can really start to struggle at that sort of range. The good thing about the MP5 though is that it is still very, very good up close. It also has some really good hip fire too with the right attachments. If you have like laser sights and stuff like that on it, this thing can be an absolute beast. Now, in terms of the actual attachments, I'm going to start doing full weapon guides with all the attachments and stuff soon, so keep your eyes peeled for that. I want to wait until I've actually fully sunk my teeth into pretty much all the weapons in the game. I didn't want to just shit out a bunch of weapon guides when I haven't fully experienced everything yet, because I think that would be kind of disingenuous. So I want to do a bit more research, but you can expect to see full weapon guides on every single weapon in the game, probably starting around the beginning of Season 1. Now, moving on, we've got a weapon here that I think is actually going to go a little bit underrated within the community. This is the DRS IAR, which is actually an LMG. However, it is pretty much an LMG and AR hybrid because it realistically feels more like an AR than it does an LMG. Because of that, it is pretty much perfect for the support class. You obviously get the bonus with the support class of running the same speed with an LMG as you do with other weapons. And so if you're playing this with support, you are essentially going to turn this into an assault rifle because the way it actually handles is very much like an assault rifle. The only downside for all the other classes is that you will be a little bit slower with it. Now, the IAR is unlocked at level 9. The downside to it compared to the other LMGs is that it only starts with a 30 round mag, which obviously for an LMG is pretty damn low, but you can eventually unlock a 60 round mag, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to turn it into a very good assault rifle type weapon that has a bigger magazine than most other assault rifles. Realistically, this weapon feels pretty similar to an M4 with just a slightly slower rate of fire, but with that comes a little bit less kick as well. So if you like the M4 but it's got a bit too much recoil, well, this might be a good alternative for you. Now, before we go any further, if you guys are interested in more Battlefield 6 content and you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. There is a lot more content on the way, so make sure you don't miss out. Now, moving on, we've got what is, in my opinion, probably the most well-rounded weapon in the game. It is definitely a top 5 or so weapon in the game, probably even higher than that, and this is the B36, which again within the Battlefield community is a bit of a classic. It's the G36 from Battlefield 4, although I think that might have been the G36C, but I can't fully remember. But regardless, this one is unlocked at level 14, so pretty early on as well. And like I said, it is a very well-rounded weapon. It has really good accuracy at sort of mid-range. I feel like that's where it's best. But it is also still really good up close. It has a fast enough rate of fire that you can still hang with other assault rifles and SMGs and stuff like that. It's a really good weapon for aggressive playstyles that don't want to get caught out at range, so you can still do well up close and stuff, but if you want that little bit of extra range compared to an SMG, for example, well, the B36 is perfect for those situations, so be sure to give this one a try. Now, moving on, we've got another one that is probably going to be a little bit underrated. This is the M277, which you unlock at level 11. Now, this one feels super accurate, even though there is a little bit of recoil to it. It's the type of weapon that absolutely hits like a truck, but you need to be accurate with it. It also only has a 20-round magazine, and so there are definitely some downsides to this one, but like I said, if you are accurate with this thing, you are going to delete people. Of all the weapons I've used in the game, this one probably feels like it hits like a truck the most, and it is just overall a very fun weapon to use that I think a lot of people will probably sleep on just because of the smaller magazine and the fact that at least with the default attachments, it does have a little bit of recoil. Once you unlock some attachments, it is very, very manageable, so make sure you don't sleep on this one. Now, moving on, we've got a weapon that I've already mentioned in one of my previous videos. This is the Cord, and this is another one that, in my opinion, is one of the best weapons in the game. However, keep in mind, this one is unlocked a little bit later than most of the weapons that I've gone through. You've got to get to level 23 to then unlock the assault rifle challenges. This is luckily the first challenge, and so you essentially just need to get to level 23, and then you need to get 10k damage dealt and 300 kills with assault rifles. So it's not too hard. It'll only really take you like a handful of games at the end of the day. If you can average somewhere between 40 and 50 kills a game, for example, it might take 6, 7, 8 games or something like that. Now, this thing has a super fast rate of fire, but the crazy thing is it doesn't really have that much recoil, which you would usually associate with an assault rifle that has a fast rate of fire. The downside to the Cord is that it has a little bit less damage than other weapons, so it still retains its accuracy, but with that fast rate of fire, and it kind of turns this weapon into feeling like a mix of an assault rifle and an SMG. From what I can tell, this is based on the AEK from previous Battlefield games, and like I said, I think this is easily one of my favorite weapons, especially on maps like, for example, Cairo or Manhattan, where you're going to get a lot of close quarter situations, but there are some long lines of sight. It feels like a perfect choice for those sorts of maps. Now, last but definitely not least, we've got another weapon that will need a slightly higher level than the previous ones. This is the Scar, which is unlocked at level 25. And again, this is an absolute classic. I'd say the Scar would have to be one of the most classic video game weapons across pretty much any title. Now, this thing is the mid to long range beast in this game. There are not many weapons in this game that are going to beat you at those ranges. Now, it does have a little bit of recoil, especially early on with no attachments. If you just use the stock weapon, there is a bit of kick to it, and not only is it vertical recoil, but there is a little bit of horizontal recoil to that as well. Especially if you're using the ACOG sight straight off the rip, it can feel like this thing's kicking all over the place. With a little bit of management, it's really not that bad at all. And then once you do get a few attachments, like some foregrips and stuff like that, this thing becomes absolutely insane. So be sure to try and unlock this as soon as you can. It is definitely, in my opinion, probably a top 3 weapon in the game, at least if you use it right. Anyway, if you're rushing around with it, it's not very good up close, but if you're holding your lines of sight really well, if you know where to position yourself, this is easily one of the better weapons in the game. But that is it for what I think, anyway, are some of the best early weapons you can get in Battlefield 6. I'm keen to hear all of your thoughts on these weapons, whether you agree or disagree, or whether there's any that you think I missed, so be sure to leave a comment down below. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you all out there on the battlefield.